What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the NF Twins. Today, we are going to talk about AI in the gaming industry, specifically NPCs and whatnot. Because are you fucking ready?
Man, I am so pumped to talk about this. Man, just like think about it. Who hasn't been there? Like back in the day, just like you go, for example, to World of Warcraft, you go to a quest, click on it, have to scroll through all of that freaking story just to be like, all right, accept, and then rush onto it. But man, I'm pumped. All right, Mark.
Man,
So
first
what
of
do you
all, who
know?
the fuck read those quests, brother? We all had the quest helper. You're just like, all right, I go there, kill a lot of things. Who the fuck actually read this? This is on you. No, there's no excuse, bro. This doesn't happen.
That is so true.
I
Reading
call
those quests
bullshit.
is unnecessary. Doesn't make sense at all. But yeah.
All right, Lucas, have you ever heard of, generative AI you have heard of, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, explain to the listener again, give him a quick summary what it is.
So generative AI, for example, LLM can be, so it could be text as well as image, right? So you can make image generation, you can be text generation. So everybody who has used ChatGPT has basically already used generative AI. And then, of course, you can use this as well for creating characters. So, for example, we have seen in role playing or maybe in AI girlfriend websites, etc., or Riz websites, which increase your Riz. So all of this is interesting, but man, our gamer's heart right now is just
All right.
beating double as fast. Because if you think about it, just like how interactions could be in games.
Well, not only that, Lucas, there's actually a few other things. First of all, I want to add to the generative AI. So, generative AI or generative content for generated by AI is basically any kind of content can be generated nowadays based on specific parameters. Okay, that Lucas mentioned images, text. It could also be entire gaming worlds, right? Items, not
Ooh.
only characters in text, right?
Yeah.
So, all this kind of stuff is super, super interesting. And I'm going to go into a little bit more depth later on, but this is also generative AI. So basically, generative AI is anything you can create generatively based on a few parameters or variables that you set or pre-give to the AI. So that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Good definition. All right, Mark. So, what are the biggest players, and of course, how big is the market? Actually, I would love to know how big the market is.
All right. First of all, what is the market that I'm talking about? Anyways, today I want to talk about generative AI in gaming. So specifically, what is the gaming market right now? So last year it was 1.1 billion, the market size, which is not a lot. Okay. That
We talk
is
about
really not.
generative AI, just generative AI in gaming sector.
Yes, exactly. In the gaming sector, it's called generative AI in gaming market. It's 1.1 billion. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot, but it's not a crazy lot of money. Because if you think about it, the gaming market, I think it had
Well,
187 billion or something was the market
no.
size
So
last
right
year.
now, games market worldwide is right now 455 billion and will increase year over year by
Oh, 400.
7.93%. Yeah, yeah, and it will
400
be,
billion.
yeah, and will reach by
All right, they have a
2029
different. You have different stats than
660.
I do, Lucas.
Yeah,
What do you
because
got?
I'm looking
Where
at
did you get your sources?
statistica.com.
Ah, okay, I got it from Nuzo. Nuzo, I believe my Nuzo boys, Lucas, and it's supposed to
That's
grow.
true. Might be right. I'm
So
not sure. It's
Nuzo
always
gaming.
interesting to see what's integrated, right? So you always have to see like
Yeah.
what's included in these numbers. For example,
So for the
it's
yeah.
included gaming hardware, in-game
Yeah, I know it's not
advertisement.
there, right? So
So yeah,
this
yeah.
doesn't it's just gaming specifically, right? So I think Nuzo, let's go with Nuzo because I think this is what we are also more familiar with. We used it for our old gaming startup to see the market size, etc. And so we're familiar with that number. All right, so generative AI, basically very, very new in gaming, and it is right now at 1.1 billion. Because what do you think it is going to be at in 10 years? So let's so well 9 years technically in 2033.
Oof. At least 7, if not 10 billion. Because let's stick with 7 billion. I'm giving you the bro answer because to be honest, ChatGPT and all that stuff that really became useful is like 1 or 2 years, and now they're trying to implement it. So I'm giving it 7. Give me the
So
answer. What is it?
$11.11 billion.
Oof. Man, think about
That's
it. In
fucking
7 years,
crazy.
no, by 2029 or by when?
2033.
Okay,
So nine
so
years.
yeah, so 9 years, man, think about it. It 11x's in 9 years. That is
Well,
crazy.
10x, 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 pretty much,
Yeah,
Lucas. But no, it is. It's fucking insane. It's like it has a
but
CAGR of more than 25.6%.
man, that just reminds me. Think about it. When you are back in any game and you get like a companion, which is an NPC, right? He just like walks past you and attacks also just the enemy that you attack. But like, just think about it having a character, and then it will just like react. I don't know. It's afraid of spiders, or it's and then it just like reacts differently. You can give it
Mm-hmm.
like for example, if it's let's stick with Lord of the Rings or something like this. So it's afraid of anything or it can't go into certain areas, then it gets oh man. Just think about it as like
Well,
really, really interesting.
I mean, in general, I think that for me, what was fascinating was how they break it down right now. Like, what does it do? I mean, I already talked about it a little bit earlier, right? So Lucas was already mentioning like, all right, AI. In terms of you have a companion that does everything, you can talk to him more or her more freely, right? You can actually have conversations. Like think about now, you can use a mic, not even text, and it will understand it because it can
Yeah.
transcribe, right? Transcribe, interact with you, which is fucking so cool. You get even deeper into the world, and there's so many more possibilities, right? Because it's
I
not a
actually
pre-selecting pathway, right?
I actually have a interesting story that I read about it. So there were some ex Riot Games developers. They started their new
Mm-hmm.
ones, which is called Jam and T Studios. And basically, what they're doing is they're building a game called Retail Mage. You don't can't see anything yet, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still testing. Basically, it's a role play game, and it's of course has a lot of NPCs in it, and well, all these NPCs are AI driven and interesting when they were developing it and testing it, one of those testers said like, "Hey, I'm bored," right, to the NPC, and then the NPC was like, "Hey, yeah, let's just play a game. Let's play hide and seek." Um, and
What?
then the other NPCs
No
jumped in
way.
as well, and they followed the rules. And I
That
mean,
is so
that's
sick.
just like a that's an interesting thing that just I can that's a cool part what can happen, which is really, really nice. But then also at the same time we have to look at the downsides. So for example, downsides could be um, for example, they in generative AI in general, you have the problem that it sometimes hallucinates, right? So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
imagine you have to give you it have to give you tips to get to a certain quest, etc. And if they're not railguards, guardrails, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
then it cannot lead you to that way. Or how do you make sure it's not going to talk about certain topics, etc. So it's very very similar like normal ChatGPT, where you have to restrict, for example, not safe for work, etc. But in an entire gaming world where you basically just want to give it knowledge of that gaming universe, I think that's like really really interesting because like otherwise you don't want to get the user too frustrated if the NPC just like jumps off too much from one side. Um, but others, of course, then you have that case that I mentioned earlier, which is super interesting to see, like that something you would never imagine, and it just like gives it can make a game which you've played 1,000 times each time like a new experience.
Well, honestly, in general, I mean, this is one of these things that is interesting. You're talking about now interactions of an NPC, so that's a character. But on the other hand, think about the worlds. I mentioned this earlier already, right? So this makes a like something like dungeon crawlers, like Diablo, all this stuff. They're all. I
Yeah,
think they're using it already, right? They're always the dungeons are generated through well, machine learning, which is the same shit as AI, basically. So you can go into the same dungeon a million times and will every single time be different. The monsters will be different, the loot will be different, etc. So I think these kind of things are super cool because now you don't have any limits on there anymore, and things are basically replayable. You can play it and play it again and play it again. But there's another thing that's super interesting in terms of the online components, right? If you talk about, let's say there was a World War, because you mentioned World of Warcraft before. World of Warcraft 2.0, how would you interact, all these kind of things? Because in the end of the day, you could have then things like, let's say you have an engine underneath. Let's go with an Unreal Engine, and you have these physics, etc., because they're Unreal Engines, etc., plus these characters. So you could have ongoing wars between Alliance and Horde, and then they could take over specific countries or the regions, etc. And then they know this stuff because they're obviously the information is out there, and these NPCs will act differently and can give you different kind of quests. You can be like, hey, we currently want to strike back against the Horde, so please come with me to Stormwind
I mean,
to
you
this
have
mission.
that already similar, right? Well, not an NPC, but these events that are being triggered, right? And when which World of Warcraft was it when you had to like raid a certain area and then each, I don't know, 12 hours or something like this, an event started.
100%, but this could be next level now, right?
Of
I
course,
mean,
because
it
they
was
have
like
memory.
New
Because, like, for
World.
example,
Yeah.
imagine like from that last battle, NPC, I don't know, 305 remembers what the NPC 205 did. And then they have the story, which can that makes it like more human, like a community, which is like interesting. At the same time, it might make the games too complex. But I think that's why like this
Yeah, I think
will be a mix, like maybe just like
100%. Yeah.
certain characters that can evolve, which is nice.
Well,
Also,
also think
Mark.
about the computing power you need for this stuff.
Oof, oh yeah,
I mean,
that
this
is
is
true.
basically a new like this is a player, right? Even a little bit more complex on the
Reminds me
server.
of Ready Player One.
Oh yeah, that's the next level. Ooh,
Yeah, I mean that's
that's a good
also like
one.
still different because then you have full immersion. You still need that like
Yeah,
right
fair enough.
now if you
Yeah, but
like.
honestly, that's just like because you have the visual. But I feel like honestly, World of Warcraft was very immersive. When you in there, you don't even see
Oh,
you
for
behind the
sure.
screen,
No,
right?
it doesn't really matter because as long as the interactions are really really good and you can relate to the universe,
Sound like I feel
yeah,
like
oof, that makes huge difference for sure. Also, Mark, isn't like one of the biggest players in it called In World AI?
oh
Tell me about
hell
them.
yeah, let's talk about them. They're so cool. Gus, go ahead.
Well, in World AI is probably one right of the biggest AI AI NPC creators in the market right now. But Mark, how much did they
Mm-hmm.
raise?
Well, they raised 135, if I'm not mistaken, 125.7
Wow.
million dollars, and they only were founded in 2021. So they've been 3 years old, and they're already at Series B.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about it, of course, it is so something like this will just make the games so much cooler. Think about GTA. Now all the prostitutes have a memory. Uh,
But they're like, "Where my money at, motherfucker? I know you're not paying for this shit."
for the people you threw out of the car. Hell no, not this time. And they drive off because they
That'd be
remember it
nice.
was you.
No, but I also think about it because you're thinking of the actual in-game. But I
Yeah.
also read an article that will make the creation of games cheaper because it just because it can suggest quests or all this kind of stuff. At some point, it can automatically do these kind of things. If you give it guardrails a little bit, it can
Yeah.
create these things, making it the process less human-driven but more AI-driven, which can lower the cost of the whole game,
I
right?
mean, I think that would be
And
really
world
nice
like
for,
maps, just maps, you right? You
yeah.
can create that. This is fucking
I think about for any strategy game or something like this, or for what was this one game that was like suit out of existence afterwards, where they promised you have like millions of planets that you can visit, and
oh,
um,
I was just thinking that
yeah. But it would have been nice for that
game
game.
with
That would have
planets.
been nice for that one. But in general, man, I mean, I've seen it also maybe strategy game, or think about it, just like competitive game. You're playing Counter Strike and be like, oh fuck, I just want to have we are 8 people. I want to have this kind of map surprise
No
me,
Man's
and then just
Sky. No
yes,
Man's
exactly,
Sky.
No Man's Sky. But yeah, I think it will make it or make character designs right. You can not only do go for, I mean, then AI could be anything, right? It could be character design,
Oh no, that's the whole
maps.
point, right? It's just like we're thinking about the first level, but you can
Yeah.
also apply that to the development side, user
I
side.
think that is
There's so
actually
many
going to be
interesting things.
first. I think AI will be first implemented for maps generation, character design, and last but not least for actually in-game experience. Because the problem
No,
is
no, no. I think that's one of the first ones because of the text is thick. Did you
no,
have
but the
that?
problem is, but the problem is, yeah, hallucinations is a big problem, and also okay, you can because the thing is like
Mm.
how free is it, right? Because you still need so much
Because you
guardrails.
can double check, you mean, basically.
Yeah, and then what if it's off script once
Mm.
and then you don't get along? I mean, for single player games, if multiplayer games, bro, it's even worse. Like everybody gets a different message. So I think that's like something that needs to be figured out. So I think it's easier for map generation because in the end you can just say, "Hey, give me a generate like a mountain range with
Yeah,
certain like four
I get
ways or
that. Fair
something like
enough.
this." That might be easier, even though it might look for us harder, but I think that's one of the easier ones. And then, of course, the 3D modeling might be a different one as well. But yeah, man, I think it's a big. Mark, when do you think it's going to be the first big AI hit game that comes out? Or do you think, okay, different question. Do you think it's going to be a pure AI game or will it be one of these franchises that we already know? And they
Well,
will,
some of them already use it. Diablo already uses it, so
yeah,
everyone knows
but like
Diablo.
really with NPCs, or do you think they just use
Well, honestly, I think it
AI
will
for
just be one of
generating the
these
text?
franchises. Yeah, exactly. They will just use it. I mean, it's like, look, NFTs were overhyped, right? At some point, and
Yeah,
the technology is cool, but like NFTs in itself, they didn't make it into gaming because it has a bad rep. But the technology in itself is still cool, and some of them games are using this kind of stuff. So interesting, and I think that there won't be like, hey, now with AI, maybe they will, maybe they won't, because AI kind of is a hype train right now, and people have a more positive view on it. So
yeah.
I think that will help, but I'm not sure that they will advertise. What is a pure AI game? Like
So for example,
generated
all
only by
characters.
AI?
Well, no, for me it's more like every NPC is AI driven, right? Um,
I don't think so. Too many moving parts, to be honest. I think that
yeah,
those wouldn't be AAA games. The AAA games nowadays are just usually free to
I think by
play, and
20,
then
I'm
oh,
saying by
actually, the Woken game.
2026 we have at least by 2026
Oh.
for sure we'll have at least that like 30 or 40% of a game is actually AI. Like for single player games might be interesting or open world maps. So like for example something like Cyberpunk, something like this.
No, 100% they could be. I could see that.
Yeah.
That's some form of AIs with it. Well, I think that's
All
it,
right.
Lucas. I think that's a
Yeah.
fucking good one. I like it. Got our AI and gaming combined. Let's fucking go.
And of course, guys, if you like it, leave a comment and of course catch you next one. Hopefully by the time our
Peace.
voice is better. Bye guys. Peace.